IUDX enables secure sharing of data from various data providers. This video covers the various phases of data provider engagement lifecycle process. It explains the process of engagement with data providers, the process of onboarding the data sets on IUDX platform, and initiation of the use cases. The very first step in this process is shortlisting the data provider. In the case of smart cities, the Smart City mission of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs prioritizes the cities for IUDX deployment based on the availability of quality data sets and also the city's plans to build data-driven use cases. In the case of private partners who would want to onboard their data on IUDX, necessary steps are taken by IUDX. Based on the shortlisting of the cities, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs and SCM teams engage with the highest authority at the data provider side like Municipal Administrative Officer, CEO, CDO, Mayor, etc. and decide to proceed with the next steps in order to set up the project kickoff meeting with the IUDX team. The kickoff meeting is joined by all the stakeholders and the IUDX team makes a detailed presentation on IUDX technology, platform, process and plans. The stakeholders can also clarify their questions about the deployment of IUDX during this meeting. A Getting Started kit along with City Readiness Check template is also shared with the data provider by the IUDX team completing the first milestone of the project. A responsibility matrix is also created for smooth execution of the project. The next stage is the review stage where the data provider reverts with a duly filled readiness checklist, which is jointly assessed by IUDX and data provider team. Each dataset provided in the checklist undergoes assessment to determine its viability in terms of high-value dataset and its utility in building targeted use cases. The project is put on hold in case there is insufficient high-value datasets. The data provider may come back to IUDX in future when the datasets are available and reinitiate the project. Based on the availability of high-value datasets and targeted use cases, the data provider is asked to provide the technical API documentation, data access methods, metadata, structure of the data, and relationships with other datasets. These will be the key deliverables to enable the IUDX deployment team to onboard the datasets onto the IUDX platform. The process of getting data from the data provider or smart city into the IUDX platform complying to the IUDX architecture is referred to as onboarding. In the future slides, we will discuss the various steps of data onboarding. The data onboarding process is initiated by going through the data documents shared by the data provider. A technical documentation explaining the datasets, data parameters, and the methods of electronic data access via APIs, FTPs, shared drives, etc. are shared with IUDX. However, the most preferred electronic data access format for IUDX is via APIs. Thus, the data provider shares the API documentation pertaining to the datasets. One such sample API documentation is shown here. In the next step, as part of the decision-making process, all selected datas are checked whether they fulfill the 3 C's of IUDX data quality assessment. This assessment process is carried out to ensure only the usable and quality data are onboarded into IUDX. The 3 C's are complete, consistent, and consumable. Only those datasets are onboarded onto IUDX that meet all the 3 criteria. After assessment, static and dynamic data are segregated to save the internet usage and size of the data that is stored and served. The next step in the onboarding process is to standardize the data across data providers or smart cities. This is done with the help of IUDX data models. A data model contains an exhaustive list of domain-specific attributes and defines their syntactic structure. All the data ingested into IUDX must adhere to one of the data models of IUDX. In order to further understand the meta details of a specific data set, a component called data descriptor is introduced. The data descriptor specifies all the resource-specific supplementary information associated with the data model. To establish the data flow between the data provider and the IUDX platform, custom software ingestion modules called adapters are created. The adapters can function either by performing a pull over an API provided by the data provider or the adapters can also allow data providers to push their data into the message broker service of IUDX. To help the consumer discover the data sets in IUDX, a meta information store called catalog is presented. The data sets are labeled and presented in the catalog, which guides the consumer or the user in data discovery. The IUDX catalog can be accessed from https://catalog.iudx.org.in. This completes the data onboarding to the IUDX platform. The next step here is to host this data in IUDX instances and serve it to consumers for application development through the IUDX data access mechanism. The data access mechanism in IUDX provides secure data access for a given data resource using search and subscription APIs. Both data provider and consumer need to establish their identity using OpenID Connect method to access the platform. The data access service specifications are fully aligned with the NGSI LD API specifications, providing standard consumable APIs. Data provider engagement lifecycle culminates with creation of applications using the data sets that have been onboarded on IUDX. The data provider, either individually or in consultation with IUDX, comes up with a list of use cases that would help address a key problem and/or high-priority topics. The IUDX team then cross-references with the existing datasets provided to check for feasibility analysis and identify feasible use cases. A possible solution is then proposed and shared with the data provider, which once accepted becomes the base for plotting the use case implementation. IUDX provides technical guidance, data platform, and datasets to the use case implementation partners with authorization control to the data provider. The implementation partners could be existing partners of the data provider or IUDX consortium partners or an entirely new vendor. Training and support for each step is an integral part of the entire life cycle. IUDX provides exhaustive training to the participants so that they understand the process of dataset access requests, managing the approval of dataset access, and catalog page of providers' data. FAQs and support pages are also available along with continuity support. This brings us to the end of this video presentation. Hope the information shared would help you understand the life cycle of data provider engagement at IUDX platform. Thank you.